We're not perfect, but I think that we aspire to the words in the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. We believe in that rule of law. It is so critically important. And when you take an oath of office to uphold it, you are held to that. And this case, we feel, reflects the vision of a man who does not believe in that. The Constitution is just an inconvenient document.
Hi there. This is Brad Rourke with the Charles F. Kettering Foundation. We're a nonprofit, nonpartisan operating foundation that focuses on advancing and defending inclusive democracy. I'm talking today with Kettering Senior Fellow Christine Todd Whitman. A Republican, she served as New Jersey's 50th governor and the first woman in that office for 2 terms from 1994 until 2001. She then became EPA Administrator under President George W. Bush. Since leaving government, she's remained an important voice in public life, beginning with her 2005 book, It's My Party Too: The Battle for the Heart of the GOP and the Future of America. She serves on numerous boards and is co-chair of the Forward Party and the States United Democracy Center. Governor Whitman, thanks for talking to me today.
It's good to be with you, Brad.
In August last year, Donald Trump was indicted by a federal grand jury for election interference. The former president appealed with a claim that he has immunity, absolute immunity. That case has made it to the Supreme Court. You joined an amicus brief, another way of saying a friend of the court, along with a number of other former government officials, including another Kettering Senior Fellow, Judge J. Michael Ludig. This brief said that a former president is not immune from prosecution. I wonder if you'd take us through your argument, Governor.
No one is above the law. Just because you have been president, you are not above the law. The appellate court decided this. They decided it unanimously. They decided it with a very tight opinion. But it seems that the U.S. Supreme Court wants to weigh in on it. And that's troubling. His supporters might say it's fine, but the law will get him, and it should. You uphold the Constitution and the rule of law. Uphold the precedent, uphold the policy and the whole premise of the Constitution, that no one is above the law. And once the people have lost trust in the rule of law, we as a democracy are in a very dangerous place.
Why is the former president saying that he has immunity?
There is protection for public officials doing their regular job. And if the public doesn't like something they're doing and sues them, as long as it's within the parameters of their job responsibility and they haven't broken the law, then they do have a form of immunity and they cannot be charged personally. But when you look at this case, this is far outside the regular duties of a president. I mean, calling on people to upend an election, a fairly fought election, an election that was free and fair and legal, and over 60 cases upheld that opinion throughout the country, who all said those cases that were brought to overturn the election results had no substance to them. Frankly, that is so outside the duties or the responsibilities of a president, goes totally counter to the Constitution and the rule of law.
What are post-election usurpation crimes?
Well, because it was post-election, but you hadn't had the transition yet. And it was somebody using that ability to try to say, I am still in office, even though it's post-election, that I have the cover. The purpose of that particular phrase and category is to get in deeper to the fact, to help the judiciary as they look at it, to really stand up and take a hard look. How can they justify ignoring the fact that this was way outside the parameters and the perimeter of his office responsibilities?
Say a little more, if you would, about why this matters so much for democracy.
Rule of law is the basis of our democracy. And he's now challenging that very, very fundamental premise of our democracy. This is talking about the presidency of the United States of America. I mean, the world's strongest superpower. And the rest of the world looks to us. The peaceful transition of power has been at the substance of our strength. And having had the opportunity to do election observation missions in countries that haven't had that, and getting it for the first time, it's just, you talk to people and it means so much to them. I mean, are we the shining city on the hill anymore? I'm not so sure. Our reputation around the world has taken a bit of a hit of late, but we are aspirational. People have to respect that law is blind. It doesn't matter Republican, Democrat, rich, poor. I mean, we know it doesn't always work that way. There's no question that we have seen cases where, depending on your racial background, judicial decisions seem to be a little unbalanced at times, or prosecutions. But this is talking about the presidency of the United States of America. We're not perfect because we're made up of human beings, so nobody's perfect. But I think that we aspire to the words in the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence more than almost any other country in the world. Really more than any other country in the world, that all men are created equal. And that we believe in that rule of law. It is so critically important. And when you take an oath of office to uphold it, you are held to that. That's the highest standard you can have. And this case, we feel, reflects the vision of a man who does not believe in that. The Constitution is just an inconvenient document. You cannot let it go unchallenged.
What does erosion of rule of law look like?
Well, first of all, January 6th is a pretty good example of what happens when people start to take the law into their own hands, start to disbelieve what they're hearing, and do not trust the rule of law.
What does it look like in your experience when a society becomes more and more authoritarian or more and more autocratic?
Let me take an example. I was in Ukraine for an election observation mission, a pre-election observation mission before Zelensky, back under the old rule. We were followed everywhere by soldiers with automatic weapons, watching us when we went into opposition headquarters, following us, seeing everything we did. Kyiv was depressed. There wasn't much happening in the streets. The markets weren't flourishing. People were quiet. It didn't feel robust. It didn't feel open. Then I was there after Zelensky was elected. It was as if I'd gone to an entirely different country. No armed guards following you around when you went and talked to the opposition parties. People out on the streets day and night. Nightclubs opened, restaurants opened, street vendors out. They were so happy to be out from under the pressure, since the previous administration had been basically a puppet of Russia, to be out from under that it was all the difference in the world. I mean, it really was. And you saw a country that was coming back, that was starting to flourish, that truly believed they were going to get rid of the corruption that had been such an anchor on their development, that it told you what it meant to people. And it told you how important it was to have that confidence in your government, and that it was going to follow the rule of law, and it wasn't going to be autocratic. What worries me is you hear the kinds of things that Donald Trump is saying he wants to do should he come back into office, going after people that have dissed him or in any way called him out. We should be very concerned about that. Those are the trappings of a dictator, someone who's going to misuse the levers of government that way. I believe what he's saying. I mean, I think we should take him at his word. And as you said, I'm a Republican. I grew up in the Republican Party. My father was a Republican state chairman for 10 years, and my mother for National Committee woman for 10 years before that. My grandparents were involved with the party. I grew up in a very different Republican Party than what we see today. Someone who says they're going to use the Justice Department to get after their enemies. Those are the kinds of things he's been saying, and that is enormously terrifying, frankly, for what it means for our democracy.
If your argument prevails in the Supreme Court on this case, what happens next?
What it will mean is the case will go forward. He will not have immunity. He will be tried.
Governor, you are co-founder of an organization called States United. What is that, and what are you trying to do with it?
Well, States United is not political. It's nonpartisan. All we're doing is trying to protect democracy. We work with governors, secretaries of state, states attorneys general, to help them with communication, to help them with the rule of law where we can. We provide legal backup for them because many of the states attorneys general don't have the depth that they need in order to push back against some of the laws that are being proposed that would take away voting rights from people. We also believe very strongly in holding people accountable. We were early on calling on the California bar to suspend John Eastman for the kind of advice he'd been giving the president that was contrary to his oath of office as a lawyer. We provide legal backup for those secretaries of states and those people that are the ones who are going to hold the line, no matter how the election turns out, whatever way it turns out. We know we're going to have lawsuits, so we are helping them prepare for that, as well as helping them prepare for the election day itself. We also will help educate. We've been working very closely with chiefs of police and law enforcement on what is appropriate at the polls, what they should watch out for when you've heard the Republicans say they're going to have masses of people out observing at the polls. And I know how that works. I know how if you have a bunch of quote unquote observers who are standing there looking at you as you're going in to vote, it has an impact. It has an impact on people. Some people will not vote. They'll turn around and go away from the polls when they feel that the other side is threatening just by being there en masse, and depending on how they're acting. And so we're working with the state police about what's appropriate, how close they should be able to get to the polls, what the role of an observer is, an official observer versus somebody who's just there to rally for their candidate. So we work in a nonpartisan way with everyone to protect the rule of law and uphold the Constitution. That's what we're all about.
Kettering Senior Fellow Governor Christine Todd Whitman, thanks for helping us understand what's at stake for democracy here.
My pleasure.